Okay, I could be wrong. All right, welcome to today's class, all about numbers. We're going to go in and we're going to talk about the four models in the MREA. We're going to talk about the 3 L's of lead generation. We're going to talk about how many contacts you need to hit per day to hit your goals. We're going to talk about how many deals you need to do in order to hit your profit goal. How much money do you need to save for a budget as far as marketing and taxes and costs. We're going to go pretty deep. And we're going to go through a lot of topics today. So slow me down, stop me, ask me any questions you guys have. But first, like I said, we got to get our mind right. We got to understand what we're doing. So I want to intro with a little bit of more of a thing. You guys can close your eyes, just listen for a second. I've been doing this now for a couple of years. And one of the biggest things that I realized is we can know in our minds that we run a business, but I don't think we give ourselves the grace that we see all the way around us in our world. So think about a new restaurant opening up in your town. A new restaurant opens up, they have their grand opening. If they market it effectively, they are going to expect a decent turnout. But one of two things happens, right? The owner either is proud of the turnout or they're disappointed in the turnout. Okay, but it's a new business. It's a brand new restaurant. What happens if that restaurant owner does not get the turnout that they look for? Anybody, shout it out. What do they do? What are some things they can do? Grand opening, hardly anybody came in. What are some things that business owner is going to think about?
Increasing their marketing.
Okay. Beautiful, Melissa. When you say increasing their marketing, just like advertisement, getting the word around and maybe, doing, what are they going to market? Just the restaurant?
You need to drive trial.
I'm sorry?
Drive trial into the restaurant. So maybe some tastings or.
There we go. Right. Some other one-off events. So you can have your grand opening. That might be, a turnoff, but we can have these other one-off events too, right? A wine pairing night with food, right? Where the chef picks a meal and, you have wine that pairs well with it. Melissa said marketing. That's, maybe they didn't pay enough into whatever realm of marketing they want. Right. Whenever there was a new restaurant in Longmont that came into town, and I personally, because of the marketing, had no idea it was a small chain. The marketing made me feel like this was a brand new thing. It was going to be great in Longmont. And then all of a sudden, I start to see it in my Facebook feed, not from marketing through there. I start to see it from friends saying, oh my gosh, this place is fantastic. I start to see people that are commenting on it saying, oh, they're going to have to check it out. And so marketing through social media just to get out to the masses is one way. And then marketing for different events is another way, right? But let's flip the switch. What happens if the restaurant has a great grand opening? They have to continue their efforts, right? They can't just have a great grand opening and expect the 100 people that came in there to go spread the word so well that a town of 100,000 people start to know about it and start to pack that place every night, right? They have to continue their marketing. Now, riddle me this. When a restaurant owner opens up, do you or do you not think they go through headaches and hurdles if they've never opened up their own restaurant? They might have worked at different restaurants. They might have
Hey, Susie, this is Darby with Keller Williams Real Estate, and I just had a question.
They might have an idea of, how to continue, but they're going to go through hurdles. They're going to go through headaches. Are they working with the right vendors for their food quality? What if a vendor starts to ship in poor quality food? What if the chef starts to become an alcoholic? What if the servers, constantly call off work because they thought they wanted a job, but they'd rather be in high school and hang out with their friends? There's going to be things that they've never experienced before, right? But here's what I'm getting at, you guys. When a restaurant owner opens up their restaurant, they have a natural ability. They have a natural kind of idea of what's going to happen. And mark my words, restaurant owners are no different than real estate agents. The pivotal moment for them is if can they get people in there for a consistent 2 years in order to make their money, in order to continue to sustain and pay their rent. After about that 2-year mark, the general public in that town knows about them, and there's either a good persona about them or a bad persona. It's like that every single time with a new restaurant owner. I have a buddy of mine that's got a degree in hospitality management, and he's opened several restaurants with different people. And the only ones that have ever stuck are the ones in which have a consistent message, a consistent food quality, and a consistent marketing plan for the first 2 years. After that, they can scale it back a bit because the word of mouth is there. People now become regulars when they come in. And real estate's no different. So as we go through this journey today, I want you guys to understand and kind of think about that concept. There's a lot of people that start off in this career that just want to just go run. They want 5 different people to start selling and buying houses with them right off the rip. And the reality is we're in business, and we only have a natural ability coming into this that can only handle so much, just like a new restaurant owner. And so this first little thing that I've got here is what we call our E to P. So when we talk about coming in with a natural ability, this is what we're talking about, right? We come in with a natural ability and we work. We get our restaurant open. We're up and running. And then bam, we hit one of those things I just talked about, a grand opening that doesn't go well. The best chef that we had becomes an alcoholic and it doesn't show up for work or starts screwing up things. We're gonna hit a wall, we're gonna hit a ceiling, and we've got 2 choices. We have 2 choices. We can hit that ceiling, kind of curl up, rethink about it, come back down a bit, restructure, regroup, and that's what we call our fundamental models, right? If we're doing something new that we've never done before, and we hit a ceiling, how in the world do we ever break through it without learning how to break through it first? So you guys, anybody that's in here for less than about 3 months right now, you're learning the fundamental models. You're never going to get through this ceiling until you learn and put forth that action and effort behind understanding what real estate truly is. I'm going to pick on Ariana for a second because she's been with us for a little bit. Ariana, if I were to ask you what this business really takes what this business really takes to succeed now versus when you first started, is your answer completely different?
Yes.
Right. And it's no different than anything that we try new. We're coming in with a natural ability, and because we only have a natural ability, mark my words, you will hit a ceiling. You'll hit roadblocks, you'll hit mental barriers. You'll hit barriers where you're like, my gosh, I'm doing everything my business plan says and I'm still not getting the results. Whenever that starts to happen, we have 2 choices. We can take that frustration, we can take that anger, we can take that depression, we can take that anxiety, and we can continue to fall down and get out, or we can use that as fuel. You see, emotion causes us to focus on things. So if we have an emotion, whether it's positive or negative, the negative ones are harder, but the reality is when you hit a ceiling, you will have a negative emotion. And as we come down that negative emotion, it's our job to make sure that we start to plug into trainings, do these things, and learn about the models and how real estate works. So that way you can be like Ariana and start to break through. How many closings have you had already this year, Ariana?
This year 1, end of last year 1, so 2 total. And
I thought you just closed 2 this last month.
no.
Okay, well, Ariana's doing it. Ariana's breaking through. She understands that just because she can start this game called real estate, she might have the best grand opening of her life. And there might be hundreds of people in this restaurant, but that one night is not the pivotal moment for her. She can't look at that and say, I've reached ultimate success. Because the reality is people probably came in for the gimmick. People probably came in for the newness. But if that food's not on point, if the servers aren't on point, it doesn't matter even if they are. She still has another 2 years before people naturally suggest in their mind that that's where they want to go out to eat. So we have some agents in here that start off with their natural ability and they'll pop 1, 2, 3 deals right off the rip. And then what happens is, if you're not doing the activities or not following the models and systems or talking to enough people, you're going to start to fall back down. And so that's what I'm trying to say is whether or not you have the best grand opening you ever had or not, it doesn't stop there. You have to keep going because our natural ability will only carry us so far. So today we're going to talk about these foundational models. We're going to talk about how to break through these achievements. Now, when you break through, notice this graph. When you break through, you can only learn so much to break through the first ceiling. The nice part about different levels is there's another ceiling. And we'll talk about that too. We got to improve those models, right? So what do I mean by improve models? We learn models, we start to try them, they start to work, but then we start to hit another ceiling. What do we mean by improve models? Anybody take a stab at that? Let me talk to you about it. We have this basis and we use that to break through the first ceiling. But now what we need to do is use these models and we need to tailor that to our basically our natural ability. You see, when you have a natural ability and you start and you hit that first ceiling, the only way to go through that ceiling is to basically not be yourself for a little bit. That's why it feels uncomfortable to do scripts. That's why it feels uncomfortable to call your best friends and understand that I don't know how to ask my best friend for business because I never have before, right? So we got to go through these foundational models and we can't use creativity while we do this. You have to use it because they have to be ingrained before you can start to add creativity to that. So here's what I mean by the creativity piece. When I was going through my journey called real estate, I kept hitting a ceiling. My ceiling is that I look 12, I sound like I'm 12, and people always ask me, how many deals have I ever done? How long have I been in the business? I didn't know how to answer that. And so I started learning scripts. I started learning systems and tools and ways to do a buyer's presentation in which they don't ask me those questions. But then that only gets me so far. Once I have an effective buyer's consultation where people don't ask me how old I am, people don't ask me how many deals I've done, and people don't ask me how long I've been in the business, I'm going to get people to sign with me. But then I'm going to hit another ceiling. All of a sudden, I'm not getting asked the questions or breaking through that barrier that I need to break through. But all of a sudden, I'm not signing everybody that I want to. Only 50% of people I met with when I first started were actually going to start to work with me. So I needed to improve that buyer's presentation and I needed to make it my own. I needed to start to implement some things. So where my creativity came into place is the disc profile. I was introduced to disc profile over 8 years ago and I still use it today. I still challenge you guys to use it. I still make you guys do it when you first start. What I added there was creativity to my presentation. And what I mean by creativity is within the first couple of minutes, I can pick out who that person is. I know their personality. So then I can tailor or be creative in my buyer's presentation to fit their profile, to fit their personality. Now, as I worked on that creativity, I had to understand that I would be wrong sometimes. Sometimes I'd peg people wrong and I'd turn them off. But the people that I actually was starting to nail on the head, they started referring me business before they even went under contract. That's how I started getting leads off of leads. And so that was my next ceiling or my next barrier, was figuring out how to capture the people that I had in front of me. And then that was through improving the system or the presentation. Through improving that, I started to break through this ceiling. I started getting more leads off of leads than I ever had before. And so on and so forth, you guys. I've been doing this for 8 years. You wouldn't believe how many ceilings I've hit. You wouldn't believe how many highs and how many lows I've hit. So put your big boy pants on and understand you're going to do the same thing. You guys are going to go through many highs and many lows, but make sure as you're going through those lows, you guys understand that that feeling is powerful and that feeling can draw emotion and motivation. And through that feeling, I promise you, if you use it right, you train, you research, you don't hit the easy button. So many of us, societal norms say we need easy buttons. Call so-and-so, they'll know the answer. Do this, they'll know the answer. Well, I'll just plug it in here, and I'll just take it as face value. It's something on the internet where there's hundreds and thousands of websites telling us all the same information, but we decided to latch on to the one website that we decided to take 10 minutes to read versus taking 2 hours to read up on a subject, right? There's a reason why Ignite goes for about a month. The Ignite calendar this quarter is April 19th to May 13th. That is a base level class that takes a month to actually go through and train you through real estate and what it is. And now what I'll tell you guys, and what's the hardest pill to swallow, is Ignite only takes you into this bottom portion here. Ignite will only make you break through ceiling number 1 if you do it right and you play full on. So it's not just learning these foundational models, it's implementing them, it's taking action. You can take Ignite 4 and 5 times, but if you still take Ignite and you fear calling your database, you're still not going to break through any ceilings because you're not going to do any deals. So as we learn different models, make sure you understand that you cannot put creativity on anything that you learn until you take action around what you learn and you figure out how to do it, how to say it, what your process is, and then start to put your flair on it in creativity. Any questions about this? This is called E to P. Your natural ability is your natural entrepreneurial estate. Just like Ariana said, she came into real estate with an idea of what real estate was and how she was going to do it. That was her natural entrepreneurial piece. Now she's going through the motions, and there's a lot of you guys in here about how to get purposeful, how to get down and dirty. I just saw Brady's head pop up, so I'm going to take him for an example for a sec. Brady has been nonstop working from E to P, nonstop. That's why he got Agent of the Week a couple weeks ago. When he does something and he gets over it, or let's just take him on this journey. So Brady is he calls for sale by owners. So the first couple of for sale by owners that he calls, he's just simply going through the foundational models. He's just learning scripts that real estate agents put online that say, hey, this works. So he has to learn them verbatim and then start to call. He starts to land a few appointments. But then what he starts to do is he starts to notice, hey, in these situations, I'm not landing these appointments. So he calls Harry, he calls Bruce, and we go through different scripts. We go do different things. I talk to him about the mindset behind a for sale by owner. And then he starts to put his Brady flair on it. So he uses the same scripts. He knows the same questions to ask based upon those scripts. But now he can put a little bit of his own flair on it to the point where he's landing appointments left and right. He knows exactly how to follow up with people. It's an incredible journey that he's been on. And one of the biggest things that Brady's done is as he goes through this motion of hitting the ceiling and coming back down, he uses those emotions to fuel him to take the time, effort, and energy to practice those scripts, to learn new ones, to practice punchlines on different people. Anytime you guys want to practice something, like if you're nervous about cold calling because you're nervous about botching it, go cold call in a different state. Go cold call in a city that you will never drive to and work in. Because who gives a flying rat's what somebody says back to you, right? We're so fearful around hearing no because we have the potential. Go call people that you don't have the potential with, and mark my words, you can really practice some scripts on real life people, and they have no idea what you're doing. And just so happens, if you do call out of state and you get that lead, well, you got a referral. You got another check coming in, and all you did was make a phone call, right? Brady's shaking his head because he knows that that's all about going from E to P, going from your natural entrepreneurial state to being purposeful about this industry and this job and what you decided to do. Brady has not stopped giving up on for sale by owners. And because of that, he's given it a 90-day process. And now I don't think he's going to look back. For sale by owners are easy to him. I mean, there's some times, right? But for the most part, how much fear draws in your stomach when you go to make a call, Brady? today versus, in December when you started with us?
I get more nervous on scripts calls with you guys than I do to call for sale by owners.
That's
It's so much
it.
like, to me, when I talk to for sale by owners, it's just like having a conversation with some random person. And I'm used to that kind of thing. Like I used to work in a bar. So like having those random conversations just kind of like comes naturally sometimes. And now that like I've gotten over that nervous part of it, it's pretty easy just to like, run through the script, but also just have a conversation with them.
Bingo. Bingo. So understand you're going to go through this. Take a look at this. I didn't have this exact graphic printed out, but anytime I'm going through something in real estate or a new business, I need to understand what it is and why I feel the way I feel. And so I actually had this little graphic printed out, and it was on my wall for a while. It sat right beside my vision statement. My vision statement, I walk into my office and I read every single day. So whatever is beside that, I'm going to also read. This became my affirmation. This became my thing that said, I will not fail in this. I just am going through these motions. If I'm on a high of high, I got to be careful. I got to check myself because I'm going to hit something and I'm going to get taken back down. As I'm going down this slope, I need to understand, okay, it's only up to me to get me out of this slump. It's only up to me to do the training and learn it. It's only up to me to implement and practice it. Awesome. Thanks, Brady. Questions so far on E to P? Cool. So some of what we're talking about, if this was on a graph, look at what it does. Up, down, up, down, up, down. We call this the roller coaster of real estate. It's a roller coaster. And the more that we understand it, the more we don't have such big dips and valleys, such huge highs to where we get our ego, just completely stripped from us when somebody clubs us over the head about hitting that next ceiling. All right. Let's talk about the 3 L's of the millionaire real estate agent. I got a different graphic over here. Yeah, there we go. All right. The 3 L's. Let me see if I can.
No, Bruce, and just to add something to that plateau, when you're at a growth period and then all of a sudden you level out, if you don't take a step back and be creative and think of new things to do, you will actually start to decline, because as the market and everything else continues to go up and you've flattened out, that curve becomes bigger as time goes through. So your goal is to then reinvent yourself and then move that needle back up so that you're going higher and higher. So what
Bingo.
happened 2 years ago isn't as good today.
Exactly. That's why scripts change all the time, because the market changes. Awesome, Harry. There was another point I was going to make, but that's all right. Let's talk about leads. All right. Let's talk about what this is. This 3 L's of lead generation. All right. In order to get leads, we have to be able to bring some sort of value to someone. If any of you guys were in scripts practice today, that's what Melissa was doing with the idea of talking to another lender, right? The value that she brought was knowledge behind saving me money if I talk to a different lender potentially. Understanding that one lender doesn't have all the products that may or may not be of advantage to me. And because she can provide that value, she's more likely to land an appointment with me. But if we can't cause value, if we can't cause an emotion in someone, leads are just leads, just a name and phone number, and they mean nothing. So that's why we do scripts. That's why you need to understand your own value proposition. How do you hold yourself? If somebody comes up to you in the grocery store and says, what do you do for work? And you say, well, I'm in real estate. I buy and sell houses. I have to ask you what kind of value you're actually bringing, right? When somebody says, well, why should I sit down with you to meet before we go see houses? If you don't have that value proposition ready, it's going to be very hard to make sure they sit down with you. So we're ever going after leads, but there's a step past that. Does anybody know what the average is? So we're talking about numbers today. Melissa, I might pick on you if you're listening. How many leads to one closing what is the ratio between leads to closings?
100 to 1.
10 to 1, exactly. Oh, what'd you say?
I said 100 to 1, so 10 to 1 is better.
Oh, okay. No, that's a good number, Melissa. Keep that in mind. See, and this is why we go over this all the time. What Melissa just said was 100 to 1. What that means is you're going to probably, if you're cold lead generating, 100 contacts to 1 viable lead. We'll get into that a little further, but leads themselves is about a 10 to 1 ratio. So if we use that metric 100 to 1, that means we would likely need to talk to 1,000 people for 10 leads, and we can expect that one of those leads will convert. So what I'm talking about, you guys, right now, these numbers sound massive. They sound big, but statistically speaking, this is dead on the money with what happens with new agents. You see, you come into this with a natural ability. That natural ability is you just know how to call people. You have a natural ability to call people because everybody has a phone, right? You know that you're in the business of buying and selling homes, so that's probably all that comes out of your mouth. And so when you're calling 100 different people, you got to understand that as you do that, you're only going to get about 1 lead out of 100 different people until you work on these foundational skills, meaning scripts, how to ask more questions. Derek said it today. Go 3 questions deep. I say it all the time. That's a learned skill. That's a model for scripts. The more that you can learn those different things, the more that your cold lead generation will jump from 100 to 1 to 50 to 1. Now, we gotta slow down a little bit. We're talking about cold lead generation. These numbers are massive, which is why I'm a proponent of cold lead generation as long as it's your secondary lead generation source. All right. But we need to know that leads, it's a 10 to 1 ratio when you first start. And the better you get at your skills, the better you train, the more you need to know how to say, the more videos you watch, the more you practice in real life. I mentioned it the other day. You guys need to partner up with each other and start practicing scripts outside of the group call. It seems like the more people we get, the more nervous we have people to volunteer. Today, I mean, Jimmy and I basically ran scripts, and so you guys are allowing us to practice. I mean, we still practice real estate, so it benefits us. But I'm not there to benefit myself. I'm there to benefit you guys. And if you guys aren't volunteering, the next piece is you gotta get a scripts partner. You've got to set a time. You've got to do it, because you're going to run your entire business off of a 10 to 1 lead ratio or 100 to 1 cold calling ratio. And you don't want to run your business like that. Who wants to contact 1,000 people for 10 people that say they want to buy or sell a home? I'd much rather call 500 people to get those same 10 leads. And then I'd much rather hone in that skill to maybe get it down to 35 to 1. Even then, that's tough. In my entire career, I only got to about a 4% ratio. And that's about 25 to 1 cold calling. And that one still hurts. So we're talking about leads. In order to get them, we got to learn what our values are. And our value is knowing what the public doesn't know. And that the only way to do that is through trainings and practice. From there, we've got this thing called leverage. Leverage. What is leverage, right? Leverage is exactly what you think it is. It's a lever. It's something that helps you to do something that you couldn't do on your own. We need to leverage our database. If anybody's heard me multiple different times, when I lead generate, it's called lead generation, but Bruce doesn't love to get leads. I love to add database members. All right. So now let's leverage this natural ability. If you come into this market or this business and you instantly start off at 100 to 1 ratio, that's just statistically sound. If you talk to 100 people and you get 1 lead, I need you guys to focus on all of the other 99 people that told you no. I need you guys to see how many of those people feel comfortable with you calling them back. If they give you permission to call them back, if they want you to hear from you, or if they just say, yeah, give me a call, I don't know if I'll answer, that's still a database member. The more you can add to your database, the more that you can create relationships with people, the more they're likely to refer you business. So out of those 99 no's, your goal is to get 10, at least 10 people to add to your database. And it can be as simple as, yeah, go ahead and call me back. I'm not going to give you my email. I'm not going to give you anything else. You got my name. You got my number. I've given you permission to call me back. I don't want you to spam me. I don't want anything of that nature. That's still a database member, because here's what happens after that. You promised you'd call them every quarter, and you do. You stick to your word. And that third, fourth, fifth, sixth quarter, or that second year, that third year that you've been methodically talking to this person, they will run into somebody who wants to do real estate. And so you have to leverage your database. Your database is a gold mine. When you first start into real estate, you have 100-to-1 lead ratio from cold lead generation. And let's define that. Cold lead generation is talking to people you don't know, love, and trust. Now we have a database. Those are people you probably know, love, or trust, or a combination of the three, or one of the three. Those people are much more likely to refer you business. You see, 99 no's to get to that one yes. Mark my words, there are plenty of people in that 99 group that wanted to tell you yes, but they don't trust you. What's up, Ricky?
I was just gonna mention I'm gonna be going back through, and basically all the people I called in my first quarter for cold calling, they're up again for me to go back and call through everybody. So I'm really excited to see how many more yeses I can get, how many people I might weed out, and they say, hey, you know what, don't call me again. But the general idea, I try to like just kind of remind myself, it's kind of like the green eggs and ham with Sam I Am, you know, and like that guy just through the entire book, he's like just trying different ways or asking different ways, and just keeps on trying to ask Sam. And the point being, like, you know, you just keep on going through all the no's until you eventually get the yes. And for those people that you have in a database member, they might have a no. They don't have business for you now. They don't have business for you then, or anytime up until the 8th no or the 20th no. And then they're like, you know what, actually, I have something for you. So Sam I Am.
Bingo. I love that, Ricky. I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's so important, right? A lot of people ask me, Bruce, I don't know what to say to this person. I just called them last quarter. I don't have anything to tell them. Well, you're thinking about it wrong. You see, when people want to do real estate, especially sellers, you only have about a 1 to 3 month lead time. Sellers do not like to voice to a real estate agent that they're thinking about selling their house next year, because instantaneously they think, oh, well, crap, that person's going to just bombard me about selling my house over the next year. So sellers are reluctant to voice it. Buyers are a little different. Buyers get excited. They're more of like a 6 to 8 month lead time. But what do we have a shortage of right now? Listings. I don't care if we don't have a shortage of listings. Our lead generation tactics have to go after listings. And if listings typically have a 1 to 3 month lead time, meaning they don't start telling the general public that they're thinking about selling their house until they're about ready to sell their house, we need to call our people every quarter, because one quarter our person could say, yeah, I'll never sell my house. And then next thing you know, you call them and they're like, well, I know we told you I wasn't going to sell my house, but you know, we actually have been thinking about it for quite a while. And my husband actually just ended up getting a job, and we're going to be moving across country. I appreciate you calling today, because they're not going to call you. Mark my words, our people do not call us unless they've been in your database for a while, unless you're like that restaurant owner who had consistent numbers for the first 2 years, to the point where the entire town understands that that's a great restaurant, and people think about it and people know it. And when somebody says, hey, where do you want to go out to eat? It's something that comes top of mind to some people. That town is that restaurant's database, but that town will not be ingrained with that restaurant until that restaurant is known for a while, until that restaurant has reached out to the community and made their presence. to the point where people think about them when they're hungry, not when they think about that restaurant when they drive by the sign, right? That's what our database can do, and that's why our database is so powerful. When we,
I mean, it's a mind share, right? Think about it just for a second. If I call Darby every quarter, and all of a sudden Darby decides she's going to move, she's going to go, oh wow, yeah, Harry always called me about real estate. If I don't call her for a year, and all of a sudden she decides she's going to move, their mind is not on Darby. Their mind is on, I got to sell my house, now what? Right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they tell a neighbor they're going to move, and the neighbor goes, oh, you need to call my realtor, right? And so you lost them. So it's a mind share game. And Gary's really good about that. Mind share is market share.
bingo.
Simple as that.
Yep.
And so that quarterly call is just a refresher to them that you're in that business and
Yep.
that you can help them.
Exactly. Remember how we were talking in that other graph about when you hit a ceiling of achievement or you hit something and you start to have an emotion, and it might be a little negative, might be a little anxiety, it might be a little depression, it might be a little bit sadness, whatever it is. I want you guys to understand that your emotions, what you do and how you take action, is based upon the emotion that trumps things. When you're not doing the business and you're not taking that action, it's a matter of time before you start to feel all those feelings, and you'll either curl up and give up, or you'll start to call your database and not care that you have nothing to say. Because the emotion behind not having the business versus the fear around calling your database, once that overwhelms itself, then you'll start to call. I'm trying to get you to a place where you don't have to feel these emotions. Understand that calling your database once a quarter, the fear you have around that is so much less than not doing business, not making money, not the reason why you got into this job. Your database is your biggest piece of leverage. Anybody know, I say it all the time, what was my percentage when I was selling for my closed deals from my database? 87%. 87% of all of my closed transactions, pretty much year over year over year over year, came from people in my database. The other 13% came from cold lead generation, because cold lead generation, just the numbers do not work for me. That's a lot of time calling people that I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that when my database isn't giving me anything and I have these moments where I don't have much going on, I've got to fill it with people to talk to, and that's cold lead generation. And it still brings 13% of my business. Your database is huge. Do not feel fearful around calling them. Susie, are you on here? I think Susie's on here somewhere. Anyways, if Susie's on here, I'm going to tag off of what we were working on with her a little bit. Susie's got a database. She's got a huge database, and we're working on some scripts for her to call her database. And my mantra is attack the elephant. The only time we don't want to call our database is because we have a fear behind it. If we didn't have a fear behind it, we'd just pick up the phone and do it, right? I don't have a fear about getting up and getting a cup of coffee and walking, even though I could trip, I could bash my head against the wall, but I'm not fearful around it because I trust my feet. I trust that I've been doing this for years. But when we first start, how many times did I fall when I was a baby when I started walking? I didn't trust myself all the time. It was scary. But the reality is that the idea of walking and getting around faster as a kid was exciting. I could go places, I could do things. And so the fear around falling all of a sudden started to be suppressed because I had another thing I wanted. Want your database, want it, and call them. Do not have a fear around it. And if you have a fear, my method is attack the elephant. Tell your database that you feel awkward. Legitimately tell them that. Go ahead.
And have the mindset that you're calling to help somebody. You're not calling to be a pest or to do anything else. You're going to try to help them with one of the biggest things they're going to do in their life, and that is either buy or sell a home. And if you have that mindset where you're saying, hey, I'm just calling to help somebody today, it makes it easier.
Bingo. So what do you think the metrics are behind your database when you first get started? So you got a 100-to-1 ratio on cold calls. It's a 35-to-1 ratio on average with your database. When you're brand new, if you can only formulate the words, who do you know that I can help that wants to buy or sell real estate? You call 35 of your closest people, mark my words, you'll get a lead. Well, let me rephrase that. 35-to-1 is the average. You can go several weeks talking to 70 people a week and not get one lead. But then you can go that 5th week and call 35 people and get all 5 of those leads from all the other times that you had. These metrics that I'm talking to you guys about, they're not just based off of 10 leads for 1,000 contacts. It's throughout your entire year. You put in 20,000 contacts, you'll average about 100-to-1 if you're cold calling, or 35-to-1 if you have 20,000 people in your database, which is difficult. So 35-to-1, use your database. It's instant leverage because people want to do business with people that they know, love, and trust. Fill in with the different value propositions around cold calling and different leads. You still have to provide value to your database, don't get me wrong. They're just more likely to give you deals and leads, even if you can't provide value in that phone conversation.
Bruce, when you say database, do you mean sphere of influence or the people you're okay?
Nope. I really appreciate that, Melissa. So let's break that down. So I keep calling it database because that's what I'm looking at. When you begin this career, you have a phone with contacts, you have social media, that's your database. But more than anything, what Melissa said is that's your sphere of influence. As you go throughout this, and like Ricky cold calls, those people that he cold calls and connects with, they're not necessarily his sphere of influence. They don't necessarily know, love, and trust him yet. So think of your database as this big entity. And within inside of that database comes different buckets. And that bucket that Melissa just talked about is your sphere of influence. So when you first start, your sphere of influence in your database are pretty much the identical. As you go through this journey called real estate and you talk to strangers and people you don't know, you start to create different buckets. So you'll have your sphere of influence bucket. Then you'll have your open house leads bucket. You'll have your cold calling bucket. You'll have your vendor bucket. And all of those buckets combined comprise your total database. Great question, Melissa. Any questions before we keep going? Cool. So I like this 3 L's of lead generation because we do need to have an ever focus on listings. If you have an ever focus on listings, mark my words, it's the easiest way to get buyers. Buyers are harder to get leads off of. And here's what I mean by that. Listings take 1/3 of the time that a buyer does. So one, there's your benefit right there to trying to pull more listings than buyers. It's 1/3 of the time for the same amount of money. The other thing that listing does is it allows you to market yourself. You can't really market a buyer. I mean, you can. There are some ways, but it's still going to cost you some money. But your listing has a sign in the front yard. So people that call off that sign become buyer leads. A buyer doesn't have a sign on their car that says, I just signed up with my agent. Please call him because he's helping me buy a house, right? There's no advertisement to a buyer unless it's word of mouth. And then you have to train your buyer to brand you. You have to train your buyer to refer you. And if it's a brand new buyer and it's not somebody you ever met, they're not likely to refer you until they start to make a relationship with you. So you always need to go after listings. You can market them, you can put a sign in the yard, and they take 1/3 of the less time. You can have 3 listings and spend the same amount of hours on 3 listings as you do 1 buyer. Now that's the national average. That's not in this market. Did anybody see the stat that came out for the ratio of time from a selling side to a buying side right now in this Denver market? 8-to-1. 8-to-1. That's insanity. A listing takes 1/8 of the time that a buyer takes. That's unreal to me. We need listings. Ask for them. Present yourself with that. Better yet, don't even focus on any buyer trainings until you have a buyer. The only buyer training I ever want you guys to focus on before you have a buyer is the contracts, because you need it for both listing side and the buyer side. Once you have a buyer, you'll be able to get through it. I guarantee you that. You watch the buyer presentation video like 1 or 2 times, you'll be able to get through a buyer's presentation and capture that buyer. Colton Davis just did it the other day. Watch it 1 time. Listings are the harder part because everybody's looking for listings. The sellers right now that are out there, they know they have the upper hand. I haven't walked into one house that didn't understand that we are in a seller's market. I walk into plenty of homes that don't understand the equity that they have in the home, but I'm not walking into any listings where they don't know they have the upper hand. We used to not really have to compete for listings. It was kind of rare when I walked into a listing and they had talked to another agent or interviewed agents. Now it's about 9 times out of 10, all of the listing appointments that I go on, they've already talked to another agent or they have somebody else lined up. So with that being said, if we need to focus on listings, we need to focus on our service plan. I don't really like how they say database, and I don't really like how they say service plan. I really want that database thing, like Melissa said, to say sphere of influence. Service plan, you guys, that's a marketing plan. That's a knowing how the selling process works inside and out. Knowing that your plan of attack to get that listing is to compete against other agents, right? We used to not have to compete against other agents very much, right? And so I really never had to be prepared for commission objections. Well, this agent was going to do it for 5, and Bruce, you're telling me 6, 6.5. You're telling me 6.2. You're telling me 5.8. I don't understand, Bruce. This other agent said they were going to do every single thing that you just said you would do in your marketing plan, but for 5%, I'm going with them. We need to understand our value proposition. Our value proposition has to be tenfold bigger, better, and stronger than anybody else that we're competing against. How do we do that? What do you think the best way to win somebody over is? If you come in and you deliver the same marketing plan that another agent did, how do you still win that agent?
I'd say it probably have to
That's
be
it,
like just with your conviction. They have to believe in you and like kind of like how hard you're going to work. So they have to, you have to get them to know, like, and trust you and have enough of a relationship where on top of being able to do everything else, they know they can really rely on you.
How so? Any examples? That was a really good answer. I'm not trying to take away from that.
Sure. So, an example is I'll be having a listing coming up here probably within the next couple months. They're renovating right now. And then they want to buy sometime or somewhere closer to Fort Collins, but they actually had another agent that had been nurturing them probably for the last couple of years, knowing that they were going to be selling someday. And basically, and there was even another KW agent. I don't even know who it is. I don't want to know because I'd feel bad. But yeah, basically, like, they ended up hitting us up and they're like, we're just not exactly sure, like, we want to go with them. We know you're doing it. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about what you're doing? So, I did that. They're like, okay, well, it sounds like, you guys are pretty good. And, you guys are in contact with us a lot. So, like, I think it would work out well for us to work together. And then since then, we've just been really trying to make sure we have a good relationship with them, trying to talk to them and communicate with them about life and stuff outside of work, but, just really trying to provide value. And that's just an example, I guess, from my side of, like, another agent had been working them for years. But in like a split second, they kind of decided to, we're kind of wanting to go this route. And not a split second, but there was some other factors, but yeah, so.
Cool. You hit the nail on the head in many words. What you just said is that what's going to take you above that other person is, if you have the identical marketing plan, is the relationship building piece. People, just like what we said over here with our database, people want to work with people they know, love, and trust. Simply spelling out a marketing plan does not make somebody trust you. It doesn't give you a relationship. So that disc profile is so important to me. You guys can figure out how to, how you want to analyze different people and how you want to interact and what your business likes. But that disc profile was a complete and utter game changer for me. it is simply the reason why I'm not 100% anymore, but back in 2018, I interviewed 12 times and I went 12 for 12 against 3 other agents almost every single time. And it was simply because I could pick up on who they were. The moment that I find out that they're the engineer type or the Jessica Rock type or the Derek Zender type that need the data, that they're analytical, that want that full-on game plan, that want those stats, my entire presentation changes to that. I get somebody in front of me that's like me, and it's just bullet points. It's just, this is what it is. They make decisions fast. I can do that too. People and my other personality is much like Melissa's. People that are high C or high S's that, you know, make decisions based upon other people's emotions. I know how to draw emotion out of people. I know how to make somebody who doesn't like to make decisions because I make them feel empowered to make that. That's the way to win in this market. Is exactly what Ricky said. This other person has been leaped. Ricky, I love this example. I'm so glad we're recording this. He just said another agent has been following up with them for a year. Mark my words, they only ever wanted to check in to see if they were ready to sell. It's the worst way to follow up. It's the worst way to follow up. The best way to follow up is to maybe briefly talk about that listing, but more than anything, Anne's sitting right here knocking on the door. She's going to interrupt. Come on, Ann, get down here. We're training.
Who is it?
What do you mean, who is this? Wednesday
you're in your
training.
Yeah, I'm not there.
I know, you're right
I'm
there.
here. I have to do a walkthrough. How are you?
So it's relational building, right? Your service plan needs to come from service. You need to understand that you got to understand your audience. Your audience has to start to trust you within an hour. Now, more than anything, Ricky, it's not just an hour. How are relationships built? What do you think the best type of relationship is built? If I spend one day with somebody for 10 hours, or I spend 10 days with somebody for 1 hour apiece, what situation creates a stronger relationship? 10 hours in one day, or 10 different days, 1 hour at a time?
10 different days, 1 hour at a time.
Why do you say that?
I say that just because I feel like that's the right answer from my experience.
From your experience, I love that you're volunteering because Ricky, congratulations, you're getting married soon, brother. Could you get married to somebody who you just, you know, just all of a sudden just lived with for like 3 and 4 months? And I mean, it was nonstop. Or did your relationship take time? Were there moments where you guys started dating and, you know, you didn't spend every night together, and then you started spending some nights together, and then you started moving in, and then you started talking about the future, and then you started talking about your goals, dreams, and desires? And it's because over time and different interactions and different mindsets, moods, and things, can we build those effective relationships? That person calling Ricky's lead did not do that job. They didn't do their job. They thought they did, but Ricky apparently has been doing that. And it's probably had multiple conversations before the listing appointment, right? So
Yep.
They're verbally telling him that they'd like to go with him. It's because of relations, I guarantee it. Brady's back.
And that's one of those moments in times kind of thing. And I give it a great sports analogy. You can go play golf with somebody one time. It's a 4-hour deal. Or you can go play racquetball with somebody 10 different times for an hour. And I guarantee you that person that you played racquetball 10 different times is going to have more of a relationship with you than that one person you played golf with, because they've already forgot about it.
Yep.
It was a spare of the moment. Boom, done.
Yep. So Brady's back. He's eating. I'm not going to pick on him. You don't have to talk. As he's going through and he's, working on these for sale by owners, one of the biggest epiphanies that he and I had over the phone was the scripts are what landed the appointment. At the appointment, all he had to do was figure out what the other agent said about their marketing plan, and then he just made relations with them. You know, one of the listings that he got, you guys understand, he got a listing because he was the only agent that came in that put their shoes on, walked out to the backyard and looked inside of the attached shop or shed or something like that. That's why he got it, because he said, well, I got to know everything that I'm selling. And the other person said, wow, no other agent actually put their shoes. They just took that shed as face value. That's relational building, right? That's not part of his marketing plan. That's using what he knows about people and relations to tailor to that person's needs. I'm sure he recognized that that person wanted to detail their house. So why wouldn't they want to detail the rest of the property? And that's what Brady did. Cool. We're gonna stop beating this like a dead horse. This is the 3 L's of lead generation. You got to know what you're getting yourself into. You got to know that your database is a gold mine. You have to know the metrics behind leads. We get so excited when we get one lead. We get so excited. And I have to ask you, if you were ever given, if you ever did something and you were given a 10% chance that it works, how excited do you get? Not that excited. So I don't know why we get so excited off of one lead in this industry. We get so darn excited. And that causes what? Causes so much disappointment when they become one of that 90% that doesn't pan out. We cannot be tricking ourselves. We got to know these metrics. So now let's talk about leads. Let's go into the pipeline tool. So this pipeline tool is what causes us to make sure we put our effort where effort's due. This pipeline tool is what kind of makes us check ourselves. My pipeline, I want at all times to have 50 leads on both sides of the spectrum. I want 50 buyer leads and I want 50 seller leads at all times in my pipeline. And here's why. So if you guys go to KW Connect, so KW Connect is basically your information page. This is where your online portal is to any sort of training that you ever want. You know, we do our trainings, but this is international training. This is higher level than me. This is a Google search for Keller Williams. Sorry, I just saw there's a bunch of chat here. Anything that anybody will monitor that chat, let me know if there's anything I need to read. This is your KW University. Anything that you guys are having trouble finding or that we don't talk about, click on this box here and go find it. So scripts. If you type in volume 1, 2, or 3, you're going to find 3 different script books. There's a reason why I still practice my scripts after 8 years of doing this. Book number 1 here is about 190 pages. Book number 2 here is about another 190 pages. Then you have volume 3, which is your lead generation book. That's 220 pages. So we literally have 3 script books, but around 600 pages of scripts. There's not all those scripts you're going to use, but that's how much practice we still have to do. I'm still practicing day in and day out. I learned a new script a couple months ago. I cannot believe I did not learn this script beforehand. The lifestyle script. I'm obsessed with it right now. It's working for me left and right. I'm getting about a 10-to-1 ratio off my database. If I just talk to 10 people in my database to give me a lead based upon that script, it's unreal. But there's your script books. Use KW Connect. But what we're going to jump into is in the growth area. So in the growth area, you're going to notice when I hover over it, you see this drop down bar. When you guys come up to the top of this, you're going to notice that your icon changes. I want you to click here and not in on anything in the drop down. Then I want you to go to Career Growth Initiative. We're going to play with this tool here in a couple minutes, but I want you guys to scroll down and find this buyers and seller pipeline tool. You can watch the video. It teaches you a little bit about it. More than anything, we'll see if I can get it up for us. Yeah. Just bypass. Okay. So this is your pipeline tool. Like I said, I want 50 leads in my buyer's pipeline tool at all times. I want 50 listing leads in my seller's pipeline tool at all times. If I had 50 buyer leads in my pipeline tool, based upon what math we've been using, how many deals am I likely to close out of those 50 leads? Ed?
Sorry. Did I hear my name?
Yeah, no worries. I said if I have 50 people in my buyer's pipeline, how many leads am I wanting to close out of that? 5, right? A 10-to-1 ratio, so 50 divided by 10 is 5. That's why I need that in there, because I like to close 4 to 5 deals per month. So as I have leads come through here, I have 2 jobs: continue to fill the pipeline tool and take the leads in my pipeline and get them motivated, get them to convert, get them off the fence, or wait and buy myself time because some leads just will continue to move up the pipeline based upon their time frame. Right? This is a great tool, so I don't have anything drop through the cracks. Well, the next question that I always get, well, Bruce, why do I have to use so many systems and tools? Like, why don't I just use Command? If I have to put all my contacts in Command, why do I have to use a pipeline tool? You don't have to use any tool. But the reality is that we're in a business. All right. How many systems and tools does a restaurant owner have? They've got their POS system. I'm sorry, their point of sale system. Everybody thinks I keep saying pieces. They got their point of sale system. They've got their income and expense system, whatever they want to use for P&Ls, QuickBooks, whatever that is. What other system do they have? They have a scheduling system, right? They have a system for hiring. They have a training model. You run a business, get used to using different things. Your CRM, or when people say, why don't I just put them in Command? You're looking at Command the wrong way. Command is a consumer relations management tool, meaning it's just a system and a tool that tells you when to contact somebody. A pipeline tool, it really helps with keeping your leads understood. Now, my leads are in my CRM because I do like my CRM to let me know when I need to talk to my lead. But my pipeline tool doesn't notify me when I need to talk to them. My pipeline tool allows me to grade my leads. So let's talk about that. So in a pipeline tool, obviously you guys can read headings, but a lot of people don't understand this ranking system, okay? This ranking system, you guys want to make sure that you're ranking your leads 1 through 10. 1 through 10. 10 being they're ready, willing, and able to buy in the next 30 days. They're going to be putting a contract up. A 9 would be somebody who's maybe going to be, just starting to look at homes, and they're probably going to contract within the next 30 to 60 days. Or maybe there's somebody who is ready and willing, but they got one last document to turn into the lender. So there'd be a 9. An 8 would be somebody that's maybe 2 to 3 months out, or maybe still working on lending. You name it. Don't trick yourself. Make sure you have definitions for each 1 through 10. 6. 6 is close to 5 to 6 months out, so on and so forth. A 1 is probably a year out. A 1 might be a name and phone number because they're a lead, but I still have never gotten a hold of them. And until I get a hold of them, I can't really move them up from a 1 to a 2 or a 5 or a 6. But when you guys start to rank your leads, you'll start to realize that you don't want to put effort where effort isn't due. And here's my best analogy around that. When you get a buyer lead that says, oh my gosh, yeah, Bruce, our lease is up at 8 months. We are so excited. Who do you have for lending? Can you set us up on a home search? We are so excited to get going. If we take their exuberance and their excitedness and their tenacity, but we don't hear the words that they just said, they're 8 months away, we're going to feel like we need to call that person all the time. We're going to feel like we should really set up that search and go through it in its entirety. We're going to make sure that we set them up with that best lender. Now, I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to take time, effort, or energy on it. I'm not going to place the full-on idea that they're going to buy a home with me because they got 8 months left on their lease. And so this pipeline tool really helps us keep our emotions in check, and it also keeps us calling the people we need to call, but better yet, it keeps us from calling the people we don't need to call. I've watched myself and too many other agents call leads that are 6 months out, call them every single week. You're going to burn that lead out. Call that lead every other week, or call them once a month for the first 2 months, and then every other week until they're ready. this pipeline tool will help you with that. And here's what I mean by that. So let's say there's somebody 6 months out. We've got them ranked as a 5 or a 6. I call them once a month for the first couple of months. After the first couple of months, we only have 4 more months left. So now they go from a 6 to a 7, and then a 7 to an 8, and then an 8 to a 9. And when they go from an 8 to a 9, that's when I'm probably calling them every week because we're ready to get in the car, ready to start going out there. Susie, question?
So my question is let's say they're 6 months out, and with current inventory, and this is just kind of where my little mind goes, if
Yes.
they can't find anything, being 6 months out would be a good time to get in contract with the new build, wouldn't it?
It would be a fantastic thing. I'm so glad you said that, Susie. So that's the definition behind a pipeline tool. Now, you have your definitions for timeline and rankings, but the reality is we have market indicators that cause us to maybe look at something a little differently too. So what if somebody's on a month-to-month lease? They're ready, willing, and able. They got a pre-approval. They're ready to go out there. The next house that comes on the market, they're going to pull the trigger, and you feel so confident that they'll do that. So in that world, they'd be a 10, right?
Correct.
But their search is set up in a manner in which they want something for $350 and under, and they want a single family home, and they only want to live in Fort Collins. Are they really a 10 or a 9?
No, they're more like a 3.
Maybe, maybe not, right? It depends on how you want to rank them, but you're not wrong in saying they're not a 10. They're not a 9, and they're not an 8 in my book.
No.
Right. So it goes back to what Susie was saying. If you have somebody who's 6 months out and inventory is low, you need to have a conversation with them about possibly contracting on a new build. Can they do that? Do they want to? Do they understand that if they wait 6 months in order to start looking for a home and they can't find what they're looking for, they're going to come up to maybe need to sign another lease? And it's disheartening if you had this up your sleeve the whole time that they could have went under contract on a new build, got into it, and actually got out of their lease versus not sharing that with them. So awesome, Susie. Exactly. You want to make sure you look at your pipeline as a living, breathing entity. I mean, I'm talking living. And the reason why I say that is it ever moves. Those numbers don't stay the same. Don't get disheartened when somebody goes from a 7 to an 8 and then you call them and they're like, yeah, my husband and I got into an argument and we ended up signing another 6-month lease. So that way we had more time because we were just stressed out. That's okay. At least they told you. They didn't get off the phone with you. Rank them back down at a 5. It's a moving, breathing thing, and use it that way. And I'll tell you, this is the #1 game changer for me, to spend my time where time was due. I used to cop out, you guys. I used to think my lead generation hours were follow-up. I'd have, 100 different leads in these things. And I'd spend my time calling all of them because I know I needed to call people and connect. And I know I needed to lead generate. I spent a lot of time on people that I should never have spent time on. Those 5s and unders for me, they get a call once a month, no more than that. Anybody maybe 5, 6, even a 7 is probably only getting called maybe once or twice a month. Anybody who's an 8, 9, and 10, yeah, you're getting called probably weekly or at least bi-weekly. If you're getting called 1 week, you might get a text the next week. But it can really help put effort where effort's due. And the reality is a lot of people will say, well, Bruce, you always preach. Why don't I call my leads to get leads off of my leads? Well, the fact of the matter is those leads that are 6 to 8 months out, you can call and ask for business. But if you start calling them every single week to ask for business, they're going to get upset with you because their situation is not yet super top of mind. The people that are 8, 9s, and 10s, you can call them every week and you can always ask them for a lead because they're super excited about getting closer to accomplishing their goals. Any questions on the pipeline tool? Cool.
Oh, Bruce?
Yeah.
What form are you using? I don't want to touch my screen here. I might lose my sound. It's pretty good. What form are you using to keep track of that? It's not on the computer. It's probably on paper, or is it on the computer?
Can you guys not see my screen right now?
I see you. I
can see this screen.
I see the small little form, but I'm not sure what form you're using.
Okay, so you
track.
guys can, it says listing pipeline tool. You guys can all see it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay, cool. So Ed,
I can try to send you one, Ed. I think I have it.
how do I get rid of this thing? Oh yeah.
I just
got
need
this.
to know the name of the form so I can work off the right thing.
Oh boy. Put this little thing all the way down there. No, I can't find it. All right, Ed. So when you're in KW Connect, all right, here's the home page. You're gonna hover over growth until your mouse has the click button, if you will.
Okay.
You click that, and you're gonna click on Career Growth Initiative.
Sorry, what was the last one?
Career Growth Initiative.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Then after that, you're gonna scroll down until you start to see some tools, your CGI tools. And you're gonna scroll down until you see pipeline, buyers and sellers. Step 4, write down select or click download tool. Step 5, watch the pipeline video.
Okay.
Step 6, open tool and use it. All right, let's get into the models.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Anytime, man. Let's get into the models before we look at some more numbers. Oh, these are kind of cool. Top 10 service areas of seller value. I posted this link in the chat, but I don't know if everybody was in here. Let me do it again. Top 10 for sellers, top 10 for buyers. We already talked about the 3 L's of real estate. Now we're going to get into the 4 models of this animal called real estate. The 4 models that we honestly need to work on all the time. When you guys first start talking to me, I always say we need to understand we're in business. We need to understand that part of our day is working in and on our business. In and on, right? These models right here are the pieces where you're working on the business. You're working on the setup. You're working on the foundational pieces. Now, what you're going to notice here is this diagram continues in a circle. You don't stop working on your business. There's never, ever, ever, ever in the history of any real estate agent that sets up their business and then just sells the rest of their career. They constantly are working on this because, like Harry said earlier, we're in different markets than we were 2 years ago. 2 years from now, we'll be in a different market, which means these models and the concepts stay the same, but the way our business works them is a little different. So first one, we have the economic model. We need to know what numbers we must hit. We need to focus on appointments and we need to focus on conversions. We talked about that a lot. And before we're done with this class, we're going to go over what numbers you guys need to hit in order to hit your goals. See, the fact of the matter is if you want to close 12 deals a year and the only thing you can ever muster up is 5 contacts a day, you're going to get real defeated on you. You're going to get really defeated. You're going to be so deflated, it's going to be unreal. And I'll show you why. The numbers do not lie. Patrick on here, Patrick knows the numbers do not lie and they do not care. There's no emotions and there's no way to get around it. I've tried multiple times.
Absolute facts.
There he is, my man. Why is it an absolute fact? Do you feel like sharing or no? I don't know what you're doing. I don't care what you're doing.
Yeah, I can share.
Perfect, do it.
Well, I always go back to the story of when I was texting you the one day where I was just circle prospecting cold call after cold call. And I ended up texting Bruce and saying, the law of numbers are not working with me today, basically. And Bruce was like, there's no emotion. The law of numbers don't care about anything. And then the next round of cold calling I did the next day, I actually got 3 leads within 10 minutes of calling after the previous day of getting pretty much nothing.
And you were on it for like 4 to 6 hours that previous day.
Correct.
The law of numbers will make up themselves. I have tried to get around it. I've tried so hard to find a brand new agent who has no other prior business experience to do better than 1 out of 100. It doesn't work. The only way it works is when they start to learn new scripts. They start to learn new dialogue. They start to learn the business. And then they get down to 50 to 1. Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it. So the economic model, it's an economic model, meaning what numbers you need to hit today will not be the same 2 years from now. It'll be a different market. So it'll be different metrics. This is why you never stop working on these models. So when I first started, I started in 2014. In 2014, I was selling homes in Longmont for $215,000. Right now, you can't find a piece of crap for $350, $375. I saw one yesterday for $375, 10 offers. My buyers went in at $425, so 50 grand over list price with a $45,000 appraisal deficit. And we got beat out. And I know that house needs $80,000 to $100,000 worth of work. So 425 plus another $100,000 worth of work, I can guarantee you that house would not comp out at 500,000, but that's how bad people need to get into homes right now. People are willing to completely overpay for a home right now. And so since our market's so tight and stringent, back in the day, I used to be able to talk to 15 people a day, and I would easily make my numbers. 15 people a day, you guys, 15 people a day, 10 people to the database, and 5 handwritten notes. I was able to close 37 deals. It's just a different market. Then as I progressed through my career, I started realizing I'm never going to close any deals unless I up my game. I got up to the point where I had to hit 40 contacts a day, plus 10 handwritten notes. Plus I tried my darndest. This was the hardest one. I tried to add 10 people a day to my database. It was extremely difficult. I went from calling for a couple hours a day, going out to lunch, going out to appointments, walking the dog, working out, to 6 to 8 hours of lead generation. And it was because the economics of our business changed. And I had 2 choices: let my business drop and fall and understand I'm not going to make the money I'm going to make because I'm only willing to put in the same amount of effort and hours, or I need to figure out what metrics are going to work in order for me to keep myself afloat. And I got big goals, so there was no other way around not lead generating for 6 to 8 hours a day. You guys, I used to tell appointments that I wouldn't be able to meet with them that day because I hadn't set any other appointments. I used to move my own buyer and seller appointments around because my method and my mentality was, you don't get off those phones. You don't stop texting people, emailing them until somebody gives you a lead. And if they don't give you a lead, nothing else mattered in my day, because those appointments I already had them. I could push them back another hour. I could push them back another day. Did I lose business for that? Probably, but I don't think I did, because I always got a lead. I always got a lead. And it was only because I didn't know if it was going to be within the first 2 hours or the last 2 hours. There were some nights I come home so whooped, man, I come home, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to do anything. It was 8 o'clock at night. I just got done getting yelled at for calling somebody at 7:30 at night. But then at 7:45, somebody answers the phone and is like, "Are you for real?" Because real estate agents don't call at 7:45 at night. Like, I do need to buy a house. However, this just doesn't seem right. Are you sure you're from around here? Are you from a different time? Yeah, I am here. I'm right now, and I don't have the energy to talk to you about this right now. Can I talk to you tomorrow? I'm a true person, but I'm also a man of my goals and my word. And I wasn't going to stop until I hit you. And I'm so glad I hit you. Can I call you tomorrow? I'm telling you guys, you get dirty with the different types of things. We're in a dirty market. That's why I'm stopping here. If you guys need to understand and need to hear this, go to that YouTube playlist and watch the training video we did maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago called Persevering Through This Market. Today, we're talking about the numbers. You got to double down. Anybody that wants to sell 12 homes this year, how many contacts you think you need to make per day? How many contacts you think you need to make per week? Anybody know?
2,000 per day.
Whoa, 2,000 per day? You're never going home.
20.
I was gonna say about 25, depending on your conversion.
Okay, perfect. Great to call me out. You both aren't wrong. Susie, it's 20 a day for the people that you know, love, and trust. Because right now it's really difficult, unless you were using that lifestyle script, it's really difficult for your leads to know of leads. Your leads know of leads, but they're not telling you because the other people that they know, they're not telling their friends because they don't know where to move. They don't know where to go. We have to contact quite a few people right now. You're not wrong. It's about 20 a day, 100 a week. If you do 100 a week, hopefully you're getting 1 a week. Out of that 1 a week, you've got about 50 different leads. Now, from those leads, you should be able to pull off other leads, right? So if you get 50 leads in 1 year, right there's about 5 closings. But that's on a 100-to-1 ratio. So if you can do your ratio with your sphere at about 50-to-1, then you're getting 2 leads a week. So if you're doing 100 contacts to your sphere, getting 2 leads a week, there's 10 closings for that year. So you got to understand who you're talking to and what lead generation activities you're doing. If you're just cold calling and you do 20 a day, you're probably only going to hit about 5 different closings, maybe 10 because you can pull leads off of leads. But if you're talking to your sphere, you can double that instantly with the same amount of contacts. Then go ahead and throw in 5 text messages in the morning to people you know, asking for business, and then talk to 20 people, and then you're up to about 25. You take an extra 5 per week, and every 5 weeks, you got another 25 people. Every 10 weeks, you got an extra 50, which means you got an extra lead. You see, doubling down and understanding that we're in a dirty market right now means we got to take more effort and energy. But I smile and I laugh, and I say this with my entire passion. The coolest part about being brand new is you have the time to do it. There's a lot of agents out there that are struggling right now because they have different things going on. They have different businesses. And they can't double down on the lead gen, and their numbers are dropping, and they're flailing. They're tanking. They're trying to, they're trying different lead generation models. They're taking the $20,000 they got in their bank account, and they're looking and they're saying, oh my gosh, in the next couple of months, I don't have very many things pending. Should I start to spend this $20,000 on online marketing, online lead generation? How can I make myself close more deals? Can I use this money to help me? Which way can I make it? Don't be that person. It's all about the contacts you make. You guys know this. I squeak when I walk. I do not spend money on business. My money is spent on my time, effort, and energy learning how to talk about real estate. I don't do marketing plans anymore. I don't do any of that. When I did my 33 touch program, I didn't spend much money on it. A lot of it was emails, phone calls, pop buys, and handwritten notes. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You just got to talk to more people. I watch a lot of people spend a lot of money that close less deals than I ever did. And they think that the money that they're spending is what's holding them afloat. And it's just not, you guys. You've got to know what numbers you need to hit. So once you know your numbers, then you got to figure out your lead generation model. You got to figure out what works. Database. It's got to be your number one lead generation source. If you do not have a database, it's the only time you can ever tell me you want 2 different types of lead generation sources that don't include database. But mark my words, if you use those 2 things correctly, in about 3 months, you'll build yourself a database in which now becomes your primary lead generation source. So when we talk about lead generation models and we talk about having that secondary lead generation tool or system or source or plan for your business, we got to also tailor that to the market as well. And here's what I mean by that. if you started off in 2020 with the idea that your primary goal or your primary business plan was database, and I'm sorry, Melissa, I keep saying database because that's that graphic. If your primary goal was to touch base and to work your sphere of influence, and your secondary lead generation source was open houses, you had to pivot quickly in March. You no longer could do open houses. And so you had to understand that you had to go back to this org chart and understand that you gotta go pick something else. You know, we had to start cold calling again. We had to start door knocking because people were home. So cold calling and door knocking kicked up. That stuff was incredible last summer. Everybody was answering. Everybody was cooped up. You couldn't not get somebody off the phone because everybody would talk about COVID. You could make relationships so much easier last year through cold calling and door knocking. Door knocking was a little hesitant for a little while, but the fact of the matter is the people that understood what the COVID regulations were, understood courtesy behind knocking on a door and stepping back 8, 9, 10 feet and almost yelling at the door saying, look, I know COVID's here and I don't want to get too close to you, but you weren't going to come into my office today. And with COVID, people are needing to move. Who do you know that's in your neighborhood looking to sell their home? The people that actually took the time, effort, and energy to go do that, they crushed it. Jonathan Lawrence, he's not in our group anymore, but he's on his 4th listing from his neighborhood because as soon as COVID hit, he said, I don't care about COVID. I mean, I care about COVID, but I don't care that the mandates through the state say I can't door knock. So I'm going to go door knock. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to be courteous. And you guys, he didn't have anybody get pissed off because anybody that's fearful around COVID, guess what they didn't do? They didn't answer the door. Anybody that answered the door, nobody ridiculed him. He was courteous. He had his mask on. He had his gloves on. And he's closed 4 listings and he started with us last June, July, something like that, just from door knocking his neighborhood, and he's methodical about it. There's not even that many houses in there. Know your lead generation model. Know what works for you, but also know what works for the economy. Budget model. You guys already heard me say it. I don't spend money. I don't like to. When I start to watch the budget model and I start to go over it, and Harry did a class on that too, that training is in our KW playlist. When you start to go through a budget model and you start, for me, the reason why I'm cheap, it's not because I'm cheap. It's because I realized that I didn't need to spend money in order to make money. I can run at about a 40 to 50% profit margin just simply because I had 2 choices. Use money to grab me leads or use myself and my time to grab me leads. And I had the time. I was a brand new agent. Like I literally, if I'm a brand new agent and I'm full time and I have the capability and capacity to work an 8 to 10 hour day, I can spend an hour a day working on scripts. I can spend 6 hours a day lead generating. And then I can spend another hour setting up my business and foundation. It was just as simple as that. The days that I got the leads that I wanted to in 4 hours, boom, there I cleared up an extra 2 hours to work on my buyer's presentation, work on my seller's presentation. Gosh, I had to turn in 1 contract a week to myself because I made myself do it. 1 contract a week I practiced. And here's what I'm talking about. It was a contract for a house, which means I'd have to have an exclusive right to buy ready. I'd have the contract for the house ready. And then I'd pick some agent that I hadn't picked on in a while that was a veteran in the office to review my contract and poke holes at it and make me better. That budget model is important. And what you'll realize is that the more you practice and the more you understand your craft, the less money you have to make, or the less money you have to spend. The people that spend an exuberant amount of money on their business, it's because they need that marketing, they need those tools to help offset what they're not willing to just learn on their own and things of that nature, right?
Yeah, and if you do the budget right, yesterday, David had a program that he's offering to our agents that can grow your wealth quite considerably. And so if you budget correctly, some of that money can be applied to that. That's going to be something when you retire that you're going to have this nice nest egg of money because you invested it into a real estate 401.
Bingo. Organizational model. It doesn't really break it down too much right here. It talks a lot about hiring and stuff like that. But your organizational model is a lot deeper than just hiring. As a solo agent, with or without any sort of hire, you consistently go around this circle. Think about it. In the year, markets change. In the fall, everybody tells me in the fall, real estate dies. No, it doesn't die. I sell a lot of houses in the fall because everybody else takes off work. It doesn't die. What it does is it makes me have better numbers. But your organizational model it really talks about how you have your business set up. In this group right here, we have different organizational models. Anne's not on the phone here. She's in the office somewhere, but her organizational model is strictly online presence. She does a newsletter every single week. She has tens of thousands of followers from online, from basically SEO. I really don't even know how she does it. She has tens of thousands of people on there that she has never met, never called at all. And she's doing a lot of business. And it's because she believes in her organizational model. I believe in mine. Mine was not marketing. A lot of people asked me to share with them my seller's presentation. I had 4 sheets of paper. That's it. I don't do it that way. My model is different than a lot of people's. If you guys know Jenny Hart, her model is Facebook only. I still laugh when I say it. She crushes it. She closes 40 to 50 deals a year just off of Facebook. And if you follow her, you either love her or you hate her. And it's amazing. Her organizational model works for her because it's what she believes in, it's what she puts the time, effort, energy in. Whatever you choose to do, you better find that full-on belief. Because if you don't, it's not going to happen for you. You won't be putting the action, effort, and energy in that you should. And you're going to feel like you're second guessing yourself. You're going to feel like something's off. So dig deep with yourself on these models and understand that you've got to go through all of this in order to have effective business. We're not going to dive into this too much, but here's the numbers that we were talking about. And I'm not going to go into this because this is the economic model is not exactly what we're looking at in this day and age. This economic model is not what works in our ecosystem right now, called this hot sellers market. I do like this budget model right here, though. You guys definitely need a budget model. Your budget model will save your butt. Watch Harry's class about budgets. It's really incredible to me how you can find these agents who are selling 40, 50 deals a year, and you ask them how much they spent on their budget or their marketing last year, and they have no idea. But they're the ones who, you reach out to and say, hey, do you have like $10,000, $20,000 to invest with me? I got this property and I want to go in on a flip with you. And they go, no, I don't have anything. And you're going, you sold 40 to 50 houses last year, 2.8% minus caps, minus taxes, minus your expenses. What did you do with that money? Right? Caleb. You got to have a budget model. You got to. Like I said, my goal at all times is to run at a 40 to 50% profit margin. And I say that, you guys, and here's the other anomaly. That's a 40, 50% business profit margin. That's 40 to 50% profit after I already paid myself a salary, after I already paid myself, or not paid myself, but paid taxes and my marketing budget. That's my goal every single year. Have it. All right, let's move on. We're going to finish up today's class with conversions. So we need to know how many people we need to talk to. I'm going to give you guys just an easy rule of thumb. If you're talking to 5 people a day, that's 25 people a week, 52 weeks in a year, you're going to close about 3 deals. 3 deals. And here's why. If you take and you do 5 people a week, I'm going to just do the math so I don't screw up. 5 people a week, that's 5 people a day, so that's 25 people a week. 25 people a week times 52. It's 1,300 people that you're talking to, right? If you have 1,300 people that you're talking to, how many leads come out of that? Well, divide that by 100. That's 13 different leads. We already said leads are about a 10-to-1 ratio. But the reality is that, again, if you can get 13 leads, some of those leads, one of those leads are going to pan out, maybe even 1 1/4 since it's a 10-to-1 ratio. But then you have those other 12 people that will also give you leads. When leads have real estate as top of mind, they'll give you leads, but you're not really expecting a lot. 5 people a day, every single day, is probably going to close you about 3 deals. I've had this phone call too many times. That's why I'm using this example. A lot of people right now are only finding the time in their day to contact 5 people, but they're getting very, very, very frustrated that Q1 they didn't close anything. The numbers don't lie. They say that you're not going to close anything, or you may have closed one thing in Q1, but Q2, Q3, those are the ones where you close a lot of business. Watch what numbers you're doing. So now let's go into this conversion for buyers and sellers, but we're going to use a different tool. All right, so back into Connect, you guys have the back in Connect, you guys have this career growth initiative thing. So scrolling down, there's the pipeline tool. There we go. You're going to click on View CGI Calculator. Some people use this. Some people will just use this and then make their own spreadsheet. Like I said, it's been a little while since I've really sold real estate, so I don't use it anymore. But it's a tool that is a game changer. You're going to go to Set My Goal, and now we're going to fill out this tool. And this is an auto-calculated tool. And I'm going to go ahead, Susie. If you're speaking, you're on mute still.
There we go. Thank you. Is this similar to what's in Command, or is this a little bit different?
Could be a little different.
Okay.
Have you used what's in Command?
I have, but I don't understand it because it seemed a little, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not
I'm a
realistic.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It didn't seem very realistic. I think I needed to make like 240,000 contacts.
Do you mind if we use your, well, okay, so this doesn't talk about contacts. This is a, I see what you're saying. It's not the same tool.
Okay.
So this is called the CGI tool, or the Career Growth Initiative tool, but better yet, CGI also stands, or you want to talk, so CGI is Career Growth Initiative. From the Career Growth Initiative, you also have another acronym called the GCI.
Okay, that's what I think the other one is based on.
GCI is your gross commission income. Gross commission income. So I like this tool because this tells me what I need to do to hit my profit goal.
Okay.
All right. So it looks like, it honestly looks like my conversions are already still in here. So let me just start this over, so that way you guys can go through this with me, write down everything that you can. And I use numbers that are slightly under, and I'll show you what I mean by that. All right, so I have a profit goal of $185,000. That's after taxes, that's after cap, that's after everything, right? At $185,000, if you guys don't know the tax bracket or tax codes, I'd encourage you to look that up. As soon as you go over $160,000 in profit, then you start to go into a different tax bracket. I believe it's still 27%. I haven't looked in a while. My cap, or my royalty, is $3,000. My company dollar cap is $18,000. And then my monthly expenses. This is a tougher one. This is a tougher one for a newer agent. So write this down. You have some non-negotiables. You have your office bill per month. Then you need to take your board dues and that one lump sum that you pay every year, break that down into 12 months, add up your MLS dues, and then any other dues and subscriptions that are non-negotiables for your business, that will get you your base level. From there, figure out what you're going to spend per month on marketing and doing those budgets. I don't consider buying signs part of your monthly expenses. It's more of a capital expenditure for starting your business. But put it in there. If you want to recoup that cost, break it down per the month and put it in there. When all is said and done, my business runs at about $2,500 a month in expenses. Ooh, you know what? This changed. I hired Kamo over the last couple of months, and so that's going to go up. Hold on, I got to figure out what I pay.
You're muted.
Thank you. So my monthly expenses turn to $5,000 a month. Commissions, right? You guys go ahead and run whatever commissions you want to do. This is not a commission class. Your business does your own set commissions. I like to use the averages in the area because again, I might be a little higher than the average in the area, but I want to make sure that this goal is stronger than what I probably really need to do. So average commission right now in our area is about 2.6%. Again, I do not use the average sales price or home sales price in any given town because I sell in multiple different towns. So I either will add up the average sales price for the primary towns that I sell in and maybe divide it by those number of towns, or I kind of just go by the one of, past history. In the history of real estate, traditionally speaking, brand new agents do not close or average the average in an area unless you're going after a certain demographic or unless you start to get in with the right people. So average home sales prices, I think last year for me, I think I sold at like high 400, somewhere in there. So I like to use 400 and 425 because I don't know what this year will bring and I want my numbers to be a little bit bigger than what I probably need. So let's just use 425 for the purpose of this video. Seller focus. This little thing here, this is where you start to, you can manipulate this whole calculator, right? But seller focus, I want your guys' seller focus to be at 80%. But it doesn't really matter what you put in here as far as the breakdown of numbers. So you can use 50-50 if you want to do 50% buyers, 50% sellers. I'm a big fan of throwing it out there to the world. So I want 80% sellers. The reality is it's going to be a hard goal to hit, but I want to see what it says. I want to see what I have to do, because if there's an 8-to-1 ratio off of sellers to buyers, I want some sellers. So we'll do 80%. Conversion rate from listings taken to listings closed. That's a number that you guys won't necessarily know yet, but the national average and honestly just the average throughout this coaching program is 75%. So you get a listing agreement signed by a seller, or you get an exclusive right to buy signed by a buyer. There's a 75% chance they're going to close. So again, you guys, we get so excited when we get something signed, and we still have a 25% chance that something's not going to happen. Keep your emotions in check. Numbers will help you do that. Conversion rate from appointments to listings taken. It used to be about 75%. Right now, the market's averaging about 50%. Then you're going to hit submit. Goals have been updated. Then you're going to go over here on the left-hand side, and it's going to start to show you what's going to happen. So in order to achieve an income goal of $185,000 in profit at a tax rate of 27%, I'm going to need to make about $253,000 a year. Cost of sales, I've got my cap, company dollars, there's 21,000. Expenses, another 60,000. So now my GCI, so that's going to be my profit, my taxes, my brokerage fees, and my expenses at about $334,000 in gross commission income. So let's see how many buyers and sellers I need to, or let's see how many closings I need to have. Each month, I need to have at least 3 closings that average about 100 or 425,000, in which I'm still averaging about 2.6% commission
per month.
Sorry, say that again.
Oh, sorry. Thought I was on mute, so I was just kind of reading out.
Oh, this tool is awesome. Use it. I need 31 closings for the year in order to hit that margin and that profit goal. Things can change though, right? You got to watch this with the market. You got to figure out what it is. You got to watch the tax codes. We got a new presidential regime that could change, right? Commissions. There's too many agents out there right now. It's really starting to irritate me. Do not be this agent. There's too many agents out there right now that are they're going into listing appointments being like 4.5%, 5%, because they think that that's what they need to get the job done. It's much easier to start up higher and work your way down to your baseline than it is to start at your baseline. This went from like 2.9 when I first started down to 2.7. Now we're down to 2.6. Average price points. Ann Carlson's not on here, but she's got an average price point that's healthier than most new agents. She would manipulate that a bit. If you're on a team and you're a buyer's agent, you're gonna put 0% seller focus. If you really start to work on your skills and sharpen them, you can get your appointments to listings taken up. So let's see what that does. That's funny. Didn't even change my closings per year. Oh, I'm sorry. I know why. That just changes how many appointments you have to have. If you can get this conversion up, let's say 85%. Oh, I got you. I know what it's doing. It's taking and it's changing my number of appointments, because that's right. I need to close 31. I'm sorry. If you manipulate that, you're not going to change your profit goal. So you're not going to change your closings. So you have to hit 31 closings. It's only going to change your appointments taken. So use it, manipulate it. From there, we're going to finish with just a brief overview of some of the other stuff that we talked about. You got to know your numbers. You got to understand that if you're only talking to 5 people a day, you're going to probably average about 3 closings for the year. So based upon that, just do simple math. And if you want to close 12, then 5 times 4, there's your 20 contacts a day. We also take time off. Don't cheat yourself out of thinking you're all going to work 5 days a week, 52 weeks in a year. The reality is you'll burn yourself out quick. There's a reason why companies are willing to pay employees for vacation time. You don't start off with vacation time, you earn vacation time. Why do companies give vacation time? Because for them, your little, weekly salary or weekly wage is nothing compared to what they make off of you with your morale boosted. People need time off. So when you're going through your numbers, make sure you don't second guess yourself. If you're gonna take a full week off, that means the week before and the week after, probably you have to increase your contact count. Questions before we end? Ooh, nothing. I didn't deliver well today, did I? Or you guys just got everything out of it that you needed.
Yeah, and I work with folks on setting up their business, and if I have a sheet that shows what you need to make to $100,000, and I can help people with that. So if you get to a point where you want to have a business planning budget session, just let me know and we'll set it up. I have a form that I use, makes it real easy. Based on what you want to earn on a net basis. And then we go into the gross, just like Bruce was doing. Bruce was showing you what it takes to gross to get that 185. We do the same thing.
Yep. Bingo. Harry's a master at it. Harry's been in business for, gosh, I don't know how long. He'll help you. He's got an uncanny way of looking at these numbers. And I'm telling you,
40 some years in the newspaper business.
you like that? He puts his camera on, shows all his white hairs, and then he takes it off and tells us how many years he's been in the newspaper business.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you guys. Anything come through the chat we need to talk about? Jessica, did you have a question? Okay, perfect.
Hey, Bruce, this is Chad.
Hey, Jed.
Where's the recording going to be at? Is it on the YouTube page?
Yep, so that's a good call. If you do not have the YouTube page, please put it in the chat, raise your hand, whatever you need. It comes out in your welcome email, but not everybody saves that. But I'm happy to share with you guys any of the resources. I do not want you guys to be left behind. See how I'm going to my bookmarks? You guys use bookmarks. Use those things. That's the way you don't forget and you lose things. So go to bookmark. Oops, not ads. Go to my bookmarks. Can you guys still hear me? I think my buzz just died. Okay. You're going to go to bookmarks. Here's the playlist. So that mock leasing presentation we did a couple weeks ago at Darby's house, it's uploaded. Here's your budget breakdown with Harry that we just talked about. Persevering through this market. I mentioned that video a couple times over this one. Social media, social media lead generation. New builds. A lot of people are working on new builds right now. I'm getting a lot of calls on new builds, and it shows me that we're not getting into these tools. A lot of people that call me and say, "Hey, Bruce, do you have 10 minutes? I got a buyer that wants to be in a new build." I'll have 10 minutes for you, but we are not going to accomplish anything because their video is an hour and 50 minutes. A lot of times when you guys think you guys have a quick question, do not put your quick questions off. This is a brand new career, and 99% of the time, what you think is going to be a quick question is going to be probably some training. And I feel bad saying this, and I feel bad when we get on the phone and you guys have this complete and utter belief that it's going to be a quick question, and I've got to cop out and say, you got to watch a training video because I just don't have 2 hours to do this. That's why they're in here. Use this. So who doesn't have it? Put it in the chat. I'll send it over to you. Or here, let's do this. Copy and paste.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you bet. Good question, Chad. I always need to remember to bring that up, especially with the amount of new people we have coming in. All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Any questions before I stop?